Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is Lessons for Full Spectrum Humans. Today is July 11th. So we had a break last week because I was traveling for the conference up to the ECT Ranch in Washington State of the United States. And so we are back now. So I was just saying I'm going to do a little bit of class housekeeping in the initial 15 to 20 minutes of this broadcast. So if you are not a member of the class and this does not interest you, the actual meat and potatoes, the nourishment of the lasagna will begin in about 15 to 20 minutes. I'm going to do a little bit of a wrap up. And I know that a bunch of people sent me their homework lesson while I was away last week. So I also need to apologize to everyone and say that I know I was not able, I was on my phone. There's not connectivity up there at the ranch. So I had got a lot of emails and I only got back a day ago. I haven't had a chance to respond by email. And I know that I promised you, if you did your homework, I would look over your calculations and I would look over your imagery and make certain that you did it correctly. So if you turned in your homework, please do not despair. I will get right on those today and be replying back to you. And if you haven't turned in your homework, it's not too late. But I'll give you more homework assignments today. So you're gonna start having them stack up on top of each other. So yes, also blah, blah, blah. Hopefully also now we will not have any more disruptions because I also had some disruptions earlier last month with electrical work being done in my neighborhood. So I'm hoping that all of that's been completed, all of the travel has been completed, and we can get our momentum going. So this is really only lesson 2 of the semester. So although it's been taking us a little bit of time to get the steam power going, we're like up in our groove right now. So Julia had written to me in the chat here about sending me her homework, and I apologize. I haven't had a chance to look at your homework yet, but I will be able to look at it, and then I'll be able to give you feedback on how well you did it. And so far, I just had some very cursory views because I was on my phone. It's like way too tiny for me to be able to see, but everyone looks to be doing very beautifully. So, and I will wait until the end of this level 1 broadcast, which is going to be like, about an hour and 20 minutes. At the end of this recording, I will give you explicit instructions as to what you're going to do for your next homework assignment. And then level 2, you don't have to have a separate advanced assignment. You can do the same stuff. Okay, so first of all, let me just drink a little bit of water. And then I'll say, hey, where have I been for the past week? So yes, I traveled up to ECT Ranch. It stands for Enlightened Contact for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. So you can see that it is relatively appropriate for me to go to the type of a gathering that is held there because the humans that go there are interested in this type of telepathic interaction or contact with beings who are, benevolent, consciousness-based beings. And I definitely fall into that category. So yes, I was invited to go there and to present my work. So just on the simplest description sense, what I did was a 1-hour explanation and intellectual description of what the flying rainbow lasagna is. Very similar to what I do here in this class, but like I joke, shrunk down into 1 hour with lots of imagery and lots of animations to really introduce people who don't know about it at all to what this concept is. And then I created some original music and I moved my DJ equipment into the center of the stage along with a chair, because you guys might have seen that I dance in this rainbow lasagna chair, and I did an actual demonstration of what the dance looks like. So it was actually wonderful. My little dog boss was there and she happened to jump up right at the moment that I was doing my dance because of course she sees me do this in the backyard all the time. So this is just the most normal thing for her. Yeah, and so it was a wonderful experience because I feel like I was able to demonstrate the dance and present it in such a way and to people who are receptive to it and who understand that it is about more than one's physical appearance. It is about more than what, whether you look appealing or whether you look sexy or attractive or any of those things when you are doing this dance, that this dance is a force or creates a force, just as if you were a large hadron collider, just as if you were an apparatus, generating a very strong force field. So that is what I was able to show people, and very many people were interested in it, especially people who had just been exposed to it for the first time, wanted to know more about it, wanted to talk with me about it. So then I was able to spend some time in human outreach because doing these videos, this is a very different form of communication. Excuse me one moment. a very different form of communication where, you know, I feel like today it's wonderful. I see a lot of people in their thumbnails, and I was joking before I got started, someone is floating in their pool over there in the sun, and that just looks so wonderful and relaxing. I'm happy. I'm happy. That is how we do like work. Like, we're going to work hard. We're also going to like experience life. But yeah, it's wonderful. And when I can see people's faces, I find it's a little bit easier for me to connect on a personal level. You know, to the students who are here for many years, I felt like I was doing recorded videos and sending them out like a message in the ocean, message in a bottle. You send it in the ocean, just throw it out there, see whoever gets it. So yeah, it was actually quite wonderful. I connected with several of the students who were in this class. Eleanor is one of the people that I was able to go out there and have many wonderful conversations with. Janice is another person. Anne is another person, and forgive me if names are evaporating from my head. Forgive me if I'm not mentioning you specifically here, but yeah, it was wonderful to be able to, I call it Bluetooth connect. Like, it's one thing to do a remote connection, and it's also wonderful, like, you know, if we have a person like Hans or someone who is far away, he's in Sweden, like there's no way that I would be able to meet him in person without very great and expensive and laborious travel for both of us. But I love that we can meet through digital stuff, so I'm not downplaying the digital stuff, and so lovely to be able to meet people in person, have real like a Bluetooth connection. And then I feel like then when you geographically, you know, distance yourself and move apart again, it's a little bit easier to maintain that telepathic connection. So, and you know that I've been saying to members of this class that part of what I teach in this class is the physical flapping of my moving mouth parts. I do, you know, the recorded videos, I do this, but then also there are telepathic downloads where I might connect with you respectfully. Knock, knock, knock is now a good time. So yes, there are more people who said, oh, include me in the telepathic class. So you might see them in the little inner classroom. Hi, good to see you. I see you totally up there, like checking me out, Jeffrey waving at me. Awesome. So yeah, okay, so that I did the presentation. That was really quite wonderful. I'll also describe to you a little bit of what it's like up there. There's a big giant mountain, that's Mount Adams, and then I perceived that to be a smaller vortex than Mount Shasta. So I visited Shasta on my way up there to Mount Adams, and Shasta's like, it's like the gong, like the deepest, you know, like presence in the symphony. It is really, really powerful. In fact, even just being hundreds of miles away from Shasta, as we were getting closer to its energy field, I started to feel my own lasagna dance activating and speeding up quite a lot. So there's really, really something. Shasta is an amazing, giant, powerful energy vortex that is spinning around there. The Mount Adams that is slightly smaller, and it is right near where the ranch is located, I perceived as a much smaller energy vortex. And there's no right or wrong or good or bad. It's just what it is. And so what a lot of people do there is they will do a sky watch at night. Some people with special night vision goggles or some kind of equipment to see what's going on that mountain, because people perceive a lot of extraterrestrial or non-terrestrial or supernatural or inexplicable lights and experiences and events there. So people can ask me like, what's going on out there? What am I seeing? What am I seeing? So I think that a lot of what is being perceived out there is what I jokingly refer to as the clank clank metal spaceships. And you know, none of this is to disparage anything that's going on, but I would like to give you my accurate assessment of what I perceived there, because I think it's important to share information. This is like, I'm sharing my best reportage. This is just like if I say, I went to China and this is what the Great Wall looked like and this is what the Chinese food was like to me, tasted like to me. So Mount Adams, when I looked at it, I could perceive some areas of it, like if this is the mountain, kind of one area over here and one area over here, where it looks kind of like a little bit scrubby, a little bit like dirty, like sometimes I see an aura around a plane that's flying in the sky. It's cloaked. I can tell that the plane is cloaked. So I could see that there were areas on the mountain that appeared to be shadowed or cloaked even on a very bright sunny day. And I didn't even mention it to other people. I didn't want to color their judgment. Someone else mentioned their perception to me and I confirmed it. I'm like, oh yes, I see those shadows up there too. So I will say, I think that there is something that is hiding what is actually going on there, and that's in some of those areas that appear to be cloaked or hidden, that some of these lights are emerging from. And my personal assessment is that, you know, I tell you all the time about the time field. We're going to get into the actual meat and potatoes of the class very soon. The beings who siphon energy off the time field. And I call them satanic beings, but this has nothing to do with the Judeo-Christian Bible. They are space races. And their propulsion system does not run on gasoline or firecrackers, or, you know, something that explodes. Their propulsion system runs on trapped and victimized consciousness. All right. This is why it's not so good. It's not so impressive. If you see a big giant clank clank mothership flying around, just understand that it's like, you know how they had those old ships that had slaves at the oars and they're pulling away and they're chained and they're like in horror underneath the decks. That's like what's running those big giant motherships, but not physical beings that you would imagine in chains, but imagine chained DNA, chained consciousness that is being exploited and used, that cannot go on its journey in exactly the same way that a physically enchained human being can be. So a lot of these little tiny specks that are seen at the ranch coming off of the mountain, like they will respond to human emotion. And this is why I'm telling everyone, like, you have to start using super amounts of discernment. And I'm taking time to give this verbal restaurant review, even though I really recognize that many, many people at this experience, which I'm also calling summer camp for UFO enthusiasts, many, many people there are already on board. Like they already are discerning in what they see. They already have their taste buds activated where they can kind of tell what's going on. So the synthetic craft, the ones that are not natural craft that I think are flying around up there, they can respond to positive emotion too. And this is what I'm joking around and jokingly calling fake Elvis, you know, Elvis impersonators. So you had the original rock and roll icon, who is no longer available, has left the building. However, you have all of these impersonators in Las Vegas, and the people, audience members clap and they love and they send adoration to the fake Elvis. I think that this is what is going on with with the technology-based little specks of light that are flying off the mountain, that people think, the well-wishers on the ground, that are super interested in benevolent extraterrestrials. That's why I was happy to meet them and teach them about flying rainbow lasagna. They're totally ready to meet our space brethren. They're seeing little specks of light and sending a lot of light and positive love energy to them. And the little specks of light might respond by either brightening or changing their pathway, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're the real Elvis. That you can be sending adoration to fake Elvis, and fake Elvis is like, hey, thank you very much. But that's not the real guy. And I think that there's even a little bit of making fun that the beings that are flying clank clank metal spaceships, and that everyone is adoring them as if they are our, you know, benevolent space brothers, and that they're kind of giving you a wing waggle, like I'm up here, but it's kind of like, haha, like we ain't what you think you are, what we are. And probably if you knew who we really were, you wouldn't be sending so much love. So that's it. You know, if Elvis takes off his costume, who is he? Like, he's just some fat plumber or something like that, not someone worthy of your adoration. So wait, let me just drink a little bit. So again, that is my personal assessment. None of this is to cast aspersions upon any individuals who are associated with the conference or anybody up there. I think that mostly the conference organizers and the people that I interacted with seemed to be humans on a journey of exploration. Humans who are interested in perceiving new things, gathering new evidence, who are open to new things. I don't sense malevolence in looking at the lights in the sky, but I have to also give my honest assessment. So that is part of what goes on up there. And then there are also lovely little cabins, and there's I want to say audience hall, like a large hall where everyone sits and listens. And I had a lovely little yurt and made a little campfire at night to stay warm because it's cold up there. So yeah, I had a really lovely experience and appreciated some of the other speakers who were there too. Some of them are friends and people with whom I interact on YouTube. And then there were speakers that I wanted to stay away from completely and felt not only no resonance with them, but I felt their music was like this. And then I was simply like, okay, then I simply will not interact with them. And I don't even think I have to name them by names. I think you can probably imagine who I'm referring to. So I think probably that's enough. So house cleaning is done on that. Went to ECT and feel like happy and positive at having planted some new lasagna seeds and met some wonderful new people. And I'm hoping that we will have some more enthusiasts jump on board for the rest of our semester as a result of this. So I think, let me get my notes up. I think it's time to get going. And also if anybody has any questions about their homework from 2 weeks ago, if you need any if you have any questions, you're in the chat and you're like, wait, Aurora, what are we supposed to be doing? Help me out here. Now is a good time to ask before I launch into what we're going to be talking about. Okay. So the lesson 1 recording, this is now the official meat and potatoes. This is all about the shape. And I call this the shape because it is the shape of so many different things, from a microcosm to a macrocosm. So this shape is the shape of the energy field around some of the tiniest subatomic particles. It is the shape of our energy field. Let me just show you around a human being. Wait. Okay, well, we'll do just a share of this over here. Sorry, that's not what I wanted to be visible here. This is what I wanted to be visible here. And this. Oh, and let me also make sure you can see me better. There we go. Here you can see, I don't know why this is so small too. Oh, that was good. I made it bigger. This etching over here to the left, those are half chakras. So chakra, again, from lesson 1, level 1, refers to spinning wheels of energy, the charioteers. This is a full chakra, or 2 toroidal donuts that are rotating at complementary 90-degree angles. What you see in this image over here, where I'm scribbling my cursor, is a set of 1 torus, not the complementary one at 90-degree angles. So for the one that is complementary at 90-degree angles, we have an image like this, all right? So all of these are different views of what the torus is. And your homework was all about drawing those images and also grabbing my magic trackpad, hold on a second, in harmonic proportional perfection. And grabbing this and grabbing this. Yeah, to begin to understand that this is a language, and it's like learning your ABCs and exactly how these are structured. So, hold on a second. What I'm going to teach today is, very good. Okay, hold on a second. Before I get started on today's teaching, Miniman, my friend, has a question. He says the violet is 12 divided by 7. That is correct if you are starting with my set of calibrations, where I start off with red being 12, because I'm in the United States and I work with 12 inches and a foot, and that is arbitrary and culturally anthropocentric, and I know it and I admit it. He says that's 1.7142, not 1.68 like you say in your video. How do you get to 1.68? I use 1.7 for a violet. So yes, I think that we could say there's enough wiggle room there to say that it is like 1.68, and it is when I do enough room for my pencil line to go inside of there that it turns out to be that size. So 1.7 is totally fine. You're allowed to do like a rough approximation within a couple of millimeters of the size circle. So I appreciate your attempt at super precision. That is wonderful. And he says, what about the white? That's the most important part of the chakra point. I made it 12 divided by 8, and that's 1.5 centimeters. So he says the white point is infinity. Is that correct? So this is correct. So this central convergence point here, that would be considered white. But you don't have to draw it in, but you can draw it in if you want to. That would be like the smallest increment that we would get in the human octave. And Jeffrey, yes, if you have a question that's not about what's going on right now, ask them privately in the chat, and I will figure out if I can answer it in level 1 or when is the best time. Because you know something, usually if there's something that you are wondering about, other students are wondering about it too. So lesson 1, what we did was the basic colors, the basic colors, what they represent, the basic color proportions, and what they are. And the homework was to draw those basic color proportions, understanding that they are chakras or energy centers of your own body, and that they are this basic aspect of self. So Miniman says, so white would be 1/8 of the total structure. And I would say, yes, if you continued the octave in that way, but white is more like the culmination point of what happens when you add here. So the math would not be white equals 1/8. It would be white equals 1 plus 1/2 plus 1/3 plus 1/4 plus 1/5 plus 1/6 plus 1/7 equals white. So I hope that I got that right. Our fractions based on 10/10ths or 8ths. So it would be based on basically 8ths, but pretty much 7ths. We're taking the total thing and dividing it into 7. So the fractions, Julia is asking me, are taking a total thing and dividing it into 7. Where's my 12-inch circle? Here's my 12-inch circle. I take this 12 inches and I divide it first in half, then in thirds, then in fourths, then in fifths, then in sixths, then in sevenths. And that is how I make my paintings and how I arrange my sculptures. So if you wanted to know what would white would be 12 plus 6 plus 4 plus 3 plus 2.4 plus 2 plus 1.68 or 1.7 equals white. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much for all of that, for the exactitude, for asking me those exact questions. This shape has many commonalities with other physical structures in the world. Things from tiny field that surrounds subatomic particles to Earth's magnetosphere. Let's talk about Earth's magnetosphere. So this is a torus, and the torus is also a donut, and this is one torus that's going around like this, and one that is going around like this. So first I'm going to do a lot of flapping descriptions of what this is, then I'm going to draw it for you and draw how we build this through various different dimensions. And again, this is about developing a foundation understanding and a facility of what these letters are as we begin to understand this language. It's like learning the ABCs here. Earth's magnetosphere is shaped like one of these going around in this direction, and the formation of that magnetic field occurs as the end result of the spinning of Earth's crystalline core. Let's draw this. I think this will make it much easier to perceive and understand. Okay, and I just got to get some Earth colors. So here's our beautiful blue planet, right? And now let's draw a cross-section of a torus going around the planet. It goes out like this, and then like this. Here's Earth's giant core, and this goes around like this. Again, cross-section. This is a two-dimensional object that I'm showing you, but you know that it's three-dimensional. So Earth has this wonderful toroidal object that surrounds it. This is just like the time body that surrounds our own body. Earth's magnetosphere is the end result of, it's an electromagnetic phenomenon. So lesson 2 for level 1 is all about electromagnetic phenomena, and it relates a lot to some of the words of science, even though you know that I'm not a scientist, but we're building bridges of understanding. So this is a shape, this magnetosphere, that is recognized and acknowledged and measured by Earth science right now. And it is understood that it is the end result or emanation of the spinning and spinning and spinning around of Earth's crystalline core, which creates this magnetic field. So this relates because I've been showing you this time vortex, you know, like this is the lower quadrant. We're going to talk a lot more about what the time vortex is and how it relates to the chakra structure, and saying that this is made by nothing more than the force of time whirling and swirling amidst itself in a big giant vortex, just like a pencil in a glass of water, or a tornado or a water spout. It's not like it is made out of any other stuff. It's not like there's, you know, a metal skeleton that makes it be there. It's like, no, it's just stuff spinning amidst itself. So Earth's magnetosphere is a good example of a similar type of expression. It is made out of nothing more than stuff spinning amidst itself. The core of the planet is spinning and rotating, and it creates, as an end result of its dance or its movement, this toroidal field. This toroidal field is absolutely necessary in terms of the anatomical health of our planet, because it creates a force field or a barrier. Like let's say these are some comets and space debris. The debris wants to come in to our beautiful planet with all this delicate organic multicellular life as it's developing, but it can't because it has to bounce off, so it kind of bounces off over to here. Or this space debris is coming in, it bounces off over to here. So you understand it begins to be a very necessary force field. Hey, let's also talk about the sun. Let's draw a sun. Here's a big, the sun is so big, I'm only drawing a tiny bit of it. Here's all sorts of sun's rays coming off of the sun. Earth's magnetosphere is also instrumental anatomically in preventing us from getting fried by too much stuff, too many solar emanations coming from the sun and hitting our planet, which would also fry us. So we have to understand we have this toroidal structure that is Earth's toroidal structure within a larger superstructure that is the sun's toroidal structure. So here's the sun's toroidal structure, and that is called the heliosphere, with the big fat sun at the center of all of that. And wait, now let's draw, here's to scale. Here's Earth drawn to scale. I don't know, can you see that? Get your microscope. Like seriously, get your telescope. That's a tiny, tiny, tiny dot. Let's make it a little bit bigger so you can understand. Our planet is so tiny in comparison to the sun and to the heliosphere. That's what it's like for us. So we are like a little tiny organelle. Here's our little toroidal atmosphere around us. We're a little tiny organelle within the sun's heliosphere. The entire solar system fits within the sun's heliosphere. The sun is literally the protector, just drinking a little here, in exactly the same way that a benevolent and appropriate parent on earth is a protector that helps you as a little tiny baby to be able to grow up big and strong. The sun creates this emanation that is an electromagnetic field that is measurable and perceptible by science, and that all of the planets and their smaller fractal microcosmic magnetic fields reside within the larger field, and that it is that protective envelope there that also protects us from the solar wind. So the solar wind, and also this has a lot to do with not just me talking about myself, but the aurorae, the colorful lights. Let's draw them where they are. Here's a purple color, and if you can see it up here. But the aurorae on Earth, this is like a little halo over there, and this is like a little halo over there. We have Aurora Borealis, which is over here at the north, and Aurora Australis, which is down here at the south. And I get my name in reference to these two phenomena. And there's aurorae on Uranus. Yes, there are glowing rings of gas around Uranus, and several other planets too. These are the combinations of what happens when you take stellar emanations and combine it with a planetary magnetic field. Creates a glowing phenomenon in space. So that is part of what is created by this magnetic field. And so we have the solar wind. That's all of this. It is both particles and high energy rays that come from the sun. And if we did not have this wonderful protective envelope here, in a similar way that space debris would disrupt, like imagine comets and asteroids constantly banging on your head, making it very hard for you to develop into a multicellular organism. In the same way, it would be very difficult for us to develop into our multicellular organism biological bodies if we're constantly being fried by X-rays. So you understand the magnetosphere helps to protect us in that sense. So there's also, go back to my face, there's also similarly a toroidal shaped field that is around our entire universe. Now let's make a distinction in this class. When I talk about the word universe, that is separate from cosmos. Cosmos would be the accumulation of all timelines and all possibilities and all dimensions, right? The everything is of everything. Universe would be like saying one, possibility, one timeline, one line of train cars of reality. So this universe, this, giant, this galaxy, this particular version of reality similarly has a large field around it that is this shape that's been perceived by one of science's giant, expensive telescopes. And I thought I had the image saved perfectly in my file folder, but I couldn't find it effectively this morning. So I'm simply describing it to you. That's like kind of cheap. Like a picture's worth 1,000 words. You're not getting the picture, guys. You're just getting the 1,000 words today. I'm very sorry. I have to drink a little something. I know. I'm sorry, but I'll find it. And whoa. This is a inspiration to do your homework because it is in the recorded homework lesson that is available on Teachable. I just don't have it in my computer file this moment. Yes, and for anyone who needs clarification on that, like if you're not exactly sure how it works, this is the live lecture that I'm giving right now. And I also make this available to the public on YouTube. But then there is a completely separate set of complementary lessons that don't involve my face, but you do hear my voice. And that's what's available on Teachable. And so those are the lessons that are like the textbook. And so this lesson 2, it's got 4 parts. It's like 2 hours long. It's very extensive. So I'm hitting the highlights in the level 1 presentation today so that you get an idea of it, but it's really worth going through because there are a lot of commonalities between the electromagnetism that science teaches about and our own understanding of this. And I'm going to include even some extra complementary material in the live lecture today. So this is also like if anybody is tuning in for the first time or if you're catching my YouTube archives and you don't know what's going on, you might not know what's going on because you might need to take the homework lessons as well as just doing this. Okay, so now we need to talk about what is a solenoid. And this is another concept that relates to science and a more formal definition. Hold on a second. I got to clear this all out. How do I clear it out? There we go. It's hard for me to do many things at once. Clear it all out. Very good. I want to talk now about what is a solenoid. So first, let's talk about what is a magnet. First of all, let's talk about what is an electron. An electron. This is this little tiny subatomic particle, and it's part of a larger atom. Like here's the atom, even though we know this is not to scale and nothing is accurate here. And the electron is what flies around the atom's nucleus in its little electron shell. But it flies around, it bounces around so fast, it's kind of like flying rainbow lasagna. We actually don't know where the heck it is. So it is kind of in a quantum indeterminate state. So electrons, when electrons flow in a wire, and I joke all the time about that. I got to pay my electric bill, keep my electrons flowing in a wire, right? Let's draw a wire. That's this right here. So then we have electrons flowing in a copper wire or something like that. So the direction of the electron is going like this, right? What happens in terms of what is perceived by science is the magnetic field that is complementary to the flow of the electron. So the magnetic field will always go around this way, complementary to the flow of the electron. It's at a 90-degree angle, and it is kind of swirling around, okay? So now we have to understand what is a magnet, a dipole magnet. What is a dipole magnet? It has two poles, a north and a south. And this is what our beautiful blue planet has right now. And this relates to everything that's going on today, from your breakfast cereal to your socks to your, car keys. This really relates because many, many people who are alive right now, all of us, P.S., all of us who are alive now, were alive at the time of Atlantis. And at the time of Atlantis, there was a pole shift. This is what everybody's afraid of, the pole shift happening again, which would be like north-south to south-north. Imagine these two positions flipping, and that, shaking up of the salad dressing of our planet, how catastrophic that could be. And this is exactly what happened over 10,000 years ago, and it did cause a great cataclysm. And I use lightheartedness to speak about this because otherwise, we'd all be crying. This is just very sad and horrible. So many people expect a return or repeat. Like, oh, this happened in episode 11. It's going to happen in episode 313. No, that doesn't have to happen just because that happened a long time ago. So what I'm here to reassure or to plant new seeds of expectation in humanity and the earth dwellers here is that we are going to experience a pole shift and a change in Earth's electromagnetic field, our expression, Earth's magnetosphere. But not the way it happened a long time ago. This time it's not north-south to south-north. This time it is inside to outside. You can imagine the lasagna-ing of our planet. That is what is happening, where the stuff that is in here all of a sudden gets to flying rainbow lasagna and gets to be out here. And the stuff that's out here gets to be inside, the outside to the inside and the inside to the outside. Very, very different than the north to the south and the south to the north. When you take a dipole magnet, and let's draw a little bit these lines of force. They kind of look exactly like a torus. These are lines of force that go around a dipole magnet. One of the things you can do is create a solenoid. And that is what happens when you bend around the North Pole to the South Pole so that they kiss. So let's draw this a little bit more simplistically. Here's a dipole magnet with north at one end and south at the other. And let's arbitrarily say north is the positive end and south is the negative end. You guys know this is just like Velcro. Velcro sticks, the bumpy part sticks with the fuzzy part. The positive sticks with the negative. This is the way it works. So if I put another south over here, it would repel. Say, don't get together because we're too similar. But if you are slightly different, then you attract. But the issue is these two things, they are separated by this over here, this long line. Well, what happens if we bend that long line? What if we bend it around in a shape like this instead? And then we have north plus, here's a little tiny plus sign, plus south, we have positive plus negative. That ends up giving us a shape that is known as a solenoid. Now, wait, let me go back, stop share, go back to my face. I got pictures to share with you. A solenoid is also something that happens at a particular level of DNA supercoiling. So I have supplementary homework videos on supercoiling. If you are new to the class, please access the playlist on my YouTube channel called Supplemental Homework Videos. If you can't find it or want some help, I'm happy to help you out. Send me a reminder and I will send you the playlist link. In that playlist, you will find several cool, fun, awesome, but they're not videos that I made, videos about supercoiling DNA. Let me just drink a little bit. And supercoiling is basically what this little diagram shows you here on the left. Let's annotate this. Let's see if we can annotate properly. There we go. This little diagram right over here shows you the way that your DNA is essentially knitted and woven together from the level of one little tiny strand, like one strand of thread, all the way through these various levels of being knitted and crocheted into greater and greater levels of complexity until you arrive at this, the shape of a chromosome. So again, to reiterate, and never to beat a dead horse or be boring about it, but science and your teacher a long time ago might have said to you, DNA is a chromosome. It just kind of sits there in your cell doing nothing. That's not true. It doesn't just sit there in your cell doing nothing for a large portion of its lifespan. It is woven into the chromosome shape. But for a much larger level of its life, it is unpacked and it is unwound, and then it is called chromatin. It's kind of like if you have a ball of yarn instead of a sweater. You do not have, this down here is the sweater. All the rest of this stuff over here is the ball of yarn. Most of the time you have a ball of yarn. And then you can sometimes have a ball of yarn that is slightly more organized than just a complete tangle of string. And that's what you've got going on over here. This level of DNA supercoiling is called a solenoid because it contains these similar toroidal structures as to what I am showing you. So yes, the torus is, so big takeaway, big emphasis. Torus, how can I undo? I don't want to do this. I want to move things around. The torus is one of the basic building blocks in the vocabulary of shapes in terms of creating the cosmos. And developing a profound understanding of the torus helps each one of us to be more free. It's like understanding let's play a note. That's a C. Understanding what a C is will help you to play music even better. It is not shackles. It will not harm you. Because once again, I understand that this shape has been hacked, that there's aspects of it that it's not healthy in the way that it's behaving, but it doesn't mean that you should be like, I refuse to learn. I sticks in my ears. I will not listen to what you're talking about. So what I just pulled up over here, this image, I did not create this image either. This is the view from inside. And we'll get to this in level 2, but I wanted to do a little bit in level 1. If you can notice, this is like looking from the inside of the donut shape. The skin of the torus, each one of these has little delineations or little blocks, it's made out of little bricks, little sectors, and then each one of these sectors has a series of numbers in it. So you can begin to understand that this is like a map, that the skin of the torus has a map upon it. So wait, let me go back to me here. I have more things to draw. Hold on a second. Let's talk about how to build. Well, so wait. I don't want to gloss over that either, and that's what that painting over there on the wall is all about. Can I bring up this painting easily? Let's see. Do I have this available just super fast? I don't know if it's in here. If it's not in here, then we'll just do it another time. It's okay, we'll do it another time. Earth's magnetosphere transforming into a flying rainbow lasagna shape. This is what is happening right now. So you're not going to experience a cataclysm as once happened. This is a completely different experience where the inside becomes the outside and the outside becomes the inside. It is a rectification. It is an uplifting as opposed to a cataclysm crashing down. Let's talk about how to build the time vortex and how to build the dimensions. So this is a chakra shape or an energy center shape. I'm now going to draw this lower quadrant here. I call that the time vortex. And then I'll tell you how we actually build the chakra shape and what is the time vortex. Clear it all out. Find a good color that you can see. I'm not going to use yellow, even though that's what the sculpture is. Let's use a bright green. This is a cross-section of that same yellow sculpture, right? Did not draw this very perfectly, but you can see down here, this I call the time vortex. And so we have over here this central convergence point, and then we have down here kind of like a flat beginning place, a base. And moving forward in this class, I will ask each, I'll get to your question about bullshit. Hold on a second. Moving forward, I'm going to ask each one of you when I start to draw this basic simplified vortex, which I usually draw like this, like 3 lines. This is like understanding that if I draw a diagram of an atom, it's not true to scale. We're just using it for this class for the ease of conversation. So first of all, I want you to, when I draw this coming up in class, and I draw it many, many, many times, I want you to think that it's this, and that it's this vortex, rounded thing, not a flat thing. And also when I talk about the pathways of timelines, I talk about them as originating from, down here at this base level, and then moving upward in this direction. But I want, when I draw them, I do it as a simplified line, like a lollipop that starts here at the X, and then goes upward like here, and then ends right here. But I want you, with your excellent minds and your excellent abilities to visualize, to instead remember that this is a pathway that is spiral, that goes all the way around like this. And that it's just very hard. It makes it a little bit too complex for you to see and a little bit too complex for me to talk about things. So I do the simplification in the diagram. So in this diagram, I'm going to get to that question meaning I just asked over there. This down here, this would be considered year 0 or the starting point for birth. And every single one of these little dots that I'm making over here is year 0, including this one that's right here. And of course, this, we're looking at a cross section of something that's flat. This is it from the top down, and here's that little, here's this little wormhole here, here's this little wormhole here. Okay, top down. So all of these little dots go in from each direction, and that's all year 0. And all of these timelines move forward in this direction. And let's talk about the membrane of death. The membrane of death is this red line that's over here, okay? So now we're beginning to understand and establish a new vocabulary. Death is not a man, is not like a cowled figure with a grin that has like a knife or a sword that cuts you down. That is not what death is. Death is literally like a force, like in the same way that gravity is a force. And this force flows along this membrane like a waterfall from this area over here that is the central convergence point, outward, flow, comes along to here, but then it keeps going, it flows all the way around. It's part of the metabolism of time. So let me just drink a bit of water. What I just established is death is not some evil, harmful thing that's here to hurt you. It's a force that is flowing, that is part of like the blood flow through a larger superstructure of time. And these areas here that I'm highlighting in red, this is supposed to be like a blood vessel. It's supposed to have blood flowing through there. That's time. Time is supposed to flow through there, flow through there, flow through there. We're not supposed to have stuff that is stuck. So the main issue that we are having in our experience as humans since the genetic degradation is that as we begin here in a place, this is like your birth, and begin to move upwards through time, we hit the membrane of death. That's over here. You're not supposed to hit the membrane of death. You're supposed to start out over here as year 0, live your life, move forward, and then, oh, look, I'm going through a wormhole, and I continue infinitely. You're never supposed to hit the membrane of death. I will harp on this over and emphasize it over and over and over in this class. Yeah, you're not supposed to hit the membrane of death, because what happens if you hit the membrane of death, it really signifies that instead of being aligned in this lovely vertical capacity, your chakra is aligned at a slightly askew capacity. So what that would look like to you and me and everyone else, here is a perfectly vertical chakra, and here it is slightly askew, and here it is massively askew. So the more askew you are, the less you are. I don't know if that's a t-shirt, but I just made that up right now. I have to talk about, well, there's energy harvesting that happens when something gets pulled off its side. Energy is harvested, and that's part of the machinery that runs, malevolent extraterrestrial propulsion systems. That's one thing I need to talk about here. I need to drink a bit more water. But I also want to tell you just in more abstract terms how this shape is created and how we build the dimensions. And this is important stuff, and I'll go over building the dimensions many, many times, because this all relates to this central convergence point right here. I'm highlighting in black. And that is also this wormhole right here. And that, we're going to start off with, is the 0th dimension. So I will also point you to the work of Rob Bryanton, who has a lovely YouTube series called Imagining the 10 Dimensions, where he does very good graphic work and uses many lovely analogies to be able to get across these basics of higher dimensions, okay? So as I talk about this in this class, we're establishing a common language. Some people talk about the 5th dimension, the this dimension, that dimension. They are a little bit loose with their language. We are very precise with our language in this class. So we're going to talk what exactly does it mean to be 5th dimensional, to be higher. So first of all, the 0th dimension is just a point. It is just this convergence point. It's the presence of everything. The only thing that exists is this point here. There's nothing around it. It's not like saying it's a point that's sitting in a room. It's not sitting on a table. It's not on a chair. It's not any place. It's just everything. And that point is infinity. And when I first started to present this information to people, and I would describe the 0th dimension, they would say, oh, it's the nothingness. It's worth nothing. And I would say, no, it's the everythingness. It's worth everything. So this is also like culturalization, if you understand. It's only in this capitalistic United States world where, like, if something is free, if it's got a price tag of 0, people think that it is worthless. I learned a lot about this being here. But if I told you this is the $1 million dimension, you'd be like, ooh, $1 million dimension, I'll take 5, right? But if I tell you this is the 0 dimension, you'd be like, the 0 dimension, that's for losers. No, it's completely the opposite. This is the most important dimension in the world. And it's also the singularity, and it's everythingness, and it's divine, or it's God. It's not a God of the Bible. It's a different type of God. It's the presence of everything, because energy flows around this larger metabolic superstructure, and all of the energy that flows through that point. So this is a 3-dimensional version. We've got figure 8s that are going all through here. We've got circles that are going all through there. Everything goes through here. This is the doorway that everything goes through. The 0th dimension is the doorway that everything goes through. And we're going to keep on redefining the singularity and what it is. I call it the little infinity house. Look, I just made a little roof on there. It's the infinity house. Every single thing lives in infinity. Everything, literally everything. And we'll get more into the abstract concept of this, the everything that should exist, the everything that shouldn't exist. It all is there, but we're creating different qualities of beingness and non-beingness. Pedro is my man. Thank you for being in the class. He's got a great sense of humor. He says the 0th dimension is everywhere and everywhere. And that is exactly right. It's like some kind of credit card thing. It's everywhere you want to be. The 0th dimension is literally if you took the fabric of space, time, and consciousness and folded every single particle over on top of itself and made it all converge at one place, that is what the 0th dimension is about. It's the starting point of everything. It's the most important thing that we have. And really internalizing that you don't have to do it this minute. Guys, you don't have to be a perfect symphonic musician in 1 minute. No, this is gradual. We do this dance and put successive layers of understanding each time we assemble as a class. So this is the first layer of paint as you're starting to understand what is the 0th dimension, what is the singularity, why is it important? The everythingness of everything that is converged at one point, at a certain point, in order for us to have multidimensionality, had to think, hey, what would happen if some part of me wasn't actually with me? And that would be really, really hard, because again, this is the house where everything lives. And until that thought or consciousness was happened, oh, you don't know what just happened. Hold on a second. Come on up. Someone just arrived. Come on up. Oh, someone just arrived. Hold on a second. I don't mean to interrupt our very important scientific stuff, but come here. Come here. Someone just arrived with a toy. Can you even see this? This Cheeky was so well behaved at the concert, completely high marks, like Scala Fuzzy Unicorn. And like people like to watch videos that have cute dogs in them. So I'm hoping that more people will be interested in a math video if we got a cute dog over here. Thank you very much for giving us a little moment. And she always knows exactly when. She's like, these people are doing math. They'll need a dog. I better jump up. The most amazing thing that had to happen in terms of consciousness was what happened when the 0th dimension had the thought, what would happen if some piece of me wasn't actually with me here, but was somewhere else. And that is what happens when you make the first dimension. And that is the most important, fateful, difficult leap in the world. It's this leap right here, the leap from what would happen if there's part of me that's here is where most of me is, but what would happen if there was a little tiny speck of me that's over here, that's not with me, that's not where I am. And then the first dimension is a line that connects those two places here, connect. A line that connects those two places. So that cognitive leap is the same cognitive leap that we make in terms of jumping from a torus into a flying rainbow lasagna. It is the jump into a higher dimensional reality. So first of all, being a zeroth dimension and living in a state of infinity, and that's pretty good. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a pretty good position. But the zeroth dimension wanted to expand and have greater degrees of freedom. And so that's what happens when you do this. So the zeroth dimension expands and it becomes the first dimension. And the first dimension is a line. And what you need to know is that was the hardest thing in the world, was to make a point, a line. But once you've done that, then you just keep doing it over and over and over. So it's like, once you master this move, you only got to have one move, but you must master your move of how to jump into a higher dimension at 90-degree angles. So if here's a dot, what is 90 degrees to this? Anything is 90 degrees to this. It could be in this direction, it could be in this direction, anything's 90 degrees. But once we make that initial jump, what's 90 degrees to that line? Look, it's going in this direction. You see that? Or hey, look, it's going in this direction. That's how you become perpendicular. Here's our little perpendicular lines. I'm doing geometry, don't die. Nobody jump out a window, that was just geometry. Okay, so the second dimension is what happens when you do perpendicular to the first dimension. That would be jumping off in this direction. Here's our little 90-degree square. And then that becomes the second dimension, right? And now I'm going to use more descriptive terms from life in order to describe this to you. A dot, a line, right? One long finger, that's my line. It could also be considered like a pencil. This is also a timeline. We're talking about time. We're talking about time, people. So we start off with all time compressed into a tiny little dot. This is similar to what science describes in terms of the Big Bang. Then we have a timeline that is created. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, okay? Then what happens with the second dimension? You could think of it as moving perpendicular in any direction, parallel, but I think of it as what happens when you line up many timelines. What happens when you line up many pencils on a tabletop? What is this? You get a plane, you get a flat plane. So we have done a point, the zeroth dimension, to a line, to a plane. And this is what Rob Bryanton describes. And this is the moves, the building blocks of the cosmos. Once you master these moves, you can do it. It's like, how do you make bread? You take flour and you take water and you mix it up together. And then that's how you get bread. And once you master that, you can make all sorts of different flavors or types of bread. So let's go back to the whiteboard and I will get to all of your wonderful questions because you're talking about The Little Prince. I love that book. Hold on, we'll get to Little Prince. I love that book so much. But I want to just stick with this and then we'll jump onto the questions. So the second dimension over here, I'm going to change to a different color in red so you can see what I'm drawing, becomes a series of timelines next to each other. That becomes a plane. So now I'm kind of using the magic of perspective to draw a flat plane that looks like a playing card or a tabletop. And then what we do is we stack up tabletops. We stack up playing cards. We go in this direction because that is what is perpendicular to the second dimension. It becomes the third dimension. So we end up imagining this is like a stack of papers or a stack of playing cards that I'm drawing in blue, and we end up making a cube. And that's what the third dimension is. And we are all infinitely familiar. I'm going to draw just a blue cube now. You're infinitely familiar with what is the third dimension. We live in a third dimension. Look at my thumbnail. Look at my thumbnail right now, everyone. I'm living in a box. Literally, I'm in a box. Wait, let me tilt this a little bit more so you can kind of see. Do you see these lines up here? Look at these lines. This line goes along. Wait. It's hard to do on the screen. This line goes along over here. That's part of the box. This line goes along over here. That's part of the box. That's part of the box. Here we've got one line here. We've got one line here. I live in a house. I live in a box. We all live in a box. This is normal. We are very, very comfortable with the idea and concept of boxes. except these are high. We're going to start to talk about these in terms of time boxes. So again, we started off with point, line, plane, then we stacked up the planes into a box. Now that we got a box, we're going to treat this box as if it's a point. So I'm drawing a big circle around it, and I'm now declaring that to be a point. And that point, now what we're going to do is choose any place outside of that point. Here's no destination zone, and we're going to make a line that gets over to there. So now what happens is we begin to take, this is one moment in reality, right? A third dimensional cube, and we line up a whole bunch of third dimensional cubes, pretend that's a cube, not just a square. I can't take the time to tediously draw it all out. It's going to take me all day. A bunch of cubes lined up in a line. That's the fourth dimension. That's the fourth freaking dimension, everyone, because everyone in the new age and all these different teachers and all these different YouTube people, and they're all talking about the fourth dimension, the third dimension, the fifth dimension, this dimension, that. We are now establishing what it is. So I say that this is similar in analogy to understanding that each one of these blue cubes is like a train car of reality. One moment, one little slice, just like the slice of time that you experience in terms of a film, not a digital film, an old-fashioned analog film that has 26 frames per second, 26 little static images that move a little bit, or a flip book in old-fashioned animation, or a zoetrope. You can look up the word zoetrope. I'll have to write it out for you here. Z-O-E, trope, T-R-O-P-E. If you can read that, again, I will give you a gold star. Zoetrope, or Wheel of Life, ancient animation technique, flip book, very similar. Flashing static images equals movement. This is what time is. I'm telling you guys what time is. Time is a series of static moments or cubes, slices of time that are tied together by the integument of our perception and the dance of our DNA. Here's my DNA dancing, connecting moment to moment, just like between the trains of a subway car. You got to somehow get between the trains. You got to go in those little no man zones. It's kind of scary and shaky. You got to go through a little airlock and go and then go across and go into the next car. This is what our DNA is, the stuff that ties together moment to moment. And the movement, different things. The movements of our DNA, twisting and curling and do-si-doing and expanding and coming together, that is what makes our consciousness jump from this train car into this train car, into this train car. Because we've been in this class today for whatever, about 58 minutes at this point. And we are not in the same bodies that we were in 58 minutes ago. We have jumped our bodies at least 58 times, more like 58 million times, as we move through each moment. And we didn't have to sit there at each time and say, okay, guys, ready, jump into the next time car. We do this as a very, very natural flow as part of our consciousness. We don't have to muscle. We don't have to think about it, but that's just part of it. And then, so point, line, plane. The point is the third dimension. The line is the fourth dimension. What's the plane, everybody? What's the plane? Tell me what's the plane. You're going to tell me that it's a series of train cars. Now I'm in green, lining up over here at the train station. This is what the fifth dimension is. But I don't want you to be too literal in your understanding of this. I just drew a fifth dimensional time plane, because they're always going to think like, oh, it's like a bakery where there's French breads that are all lined up on a shelf. And each one of those breads is like possibilities of the future. That's a good analogy, but it's not accurate, because what's accurate is that the fifth dimension is actually the bakery in the back, not the French breads in the front that are ready to eat with some nice brie, but instead the flour and the water and the mixing equipment that's in the back, the potential for bread. That's what the fifth dimension is. So here today we are establishing that a lot of the language that is used, are you third dimensional? Are you fifth dimensional? Are you fifth dimensional? I'm fifth dimensional. I have a lot of attitude about it. Yeah, this is, you guess it, you're already fifth dimensional. You are already, due to quantum observership, taking the potentials of the higher dimensional reality and collapsing them into actual breads, baking them into breads that you can actually eat, and then experiencing the movement of time through those chunks of bread, through those slices of bread. And science calls this the bulk. The bulk, like you're slicing through the superstructure, making a slice of bread that you can put some peanut butter and jelly of time on top of. So it is not appropriate to be like, I look down upon you. You are merely a third dimensional creature. I am a fifth dimensional creature. That ain't right. And let's get into what is a sixth dimensional creature. So we have this fifth dimensional bakery It's like a time plane. Now I'm going to draw this down here. I just drew a green plane down there. Here's a green plane, right? Green tabletop. Now let's draw the sixth dimension on top of the green tabletop. Let's make it purple. We put many, many playing cards on top so that it makes, look at this, a cube, a time cube, and that cube becomes the sixth dimension. That also then acts as a point. So it's the sixth dimension there, and let's circle it in black so that we understand it becomes then a point in the next foray. Let me erase a little something here. Let's erase this structure. Ooh, I'm erasing time. Okay. And now let's say go back to drawing. What happens next? So what is it like when you're a sixth dimensional being? You can actually see the edits of the movie. You didn't just see one train car of reality moving by. You saw many, many possible train cars of reality and like the script of reality. And you also read all the edits. Every single one of the pages over here that you stacked up, all these playing cards, that's a version of reality. And you got to see what happens as the reality got edited and changed. Now what happens next? Now we line up a bunch of sixth dimensional time cubes in a line going this way. And that's what the seventh dimension is. That's the seventh dimension. So we've done a point and a line, and then we get a plane, because that's what the eighth dimension is. If we line up many, many seventh dimensional time cubes next to each other, we then get a flat plane. Now I'm going to draw over here is the red flat plane. That is an eighth dimensional superstructure. And we're going to make a higher dimensional time cube out of it by stacking up many, many higher dimensions on top of it. And then we end up having this beautiful time cube over here. And then that becomes the point for the next foray. And this can literally continue to go on endlessly. So I know that this is a lot of math, and I know that it might be just a bit overwhelming, but one of the main things I want you to understand is that one of these time cones or time vortices here, that's like understanding you have an array of fourth dimensional train cars. I got it. Every one of these spiral pathways is like an array of train cars. And you are a fifth dimensional being in that you are creating new possibilities, not merely traversing the landscape of what is there, but you change the landscape. And that is what I teach in terms of flying rainbow lasagna, that you're not just some stupid actor like, duh, I read the script and I say stupid things and I go drive my car and I use toilet paper in the world. Like, that's not what you're supposed to be like. You're actually supposed to be the auteur. That's in Hollywood, when like you write the script and you also star in it and you sew all the clothing and you set the scene, like you do everything. That is what our experience is supposed to be like, submerged in time, experiencing our own play, but also adding to the play, adding to the virtuosity of what is there, adding to create the creation of what is available. So, okay, so wait, I'm going to get to all of your different questions. But the reason why I went through that, building the dimensions, and I'll go through that again, and that's not in the recorded homeworks. So I encourage everyone, it's in the supplemental playlist, check it out. Building the 10 or 11 dimensions, Rob Bryanton, developing a facility with those concepts will make it easier for you to understand time. Makes it, and also every time I talk about that perpendicular leap into the next highest dimension, that's what we are teaching about in this class. Torus into flying rainbow lasagna. This thing starts vibrating like crazy and becomes this thing. That's just like saying we take that initial dense everythingness of the infinity point and we make a line. How do you make a line? No one ever made it before. Somebody had to think of it and do it. How do you make a flying rainbow lasagna? No one had ever made it before. Somebody had to get the idea and then get the excitement, get the energy together and be like, okay, ready, let's jump into a higher dimension. So this is what this is all about. So wait, let me get into questions, make sure I get everybody's questions, and then I'm going to give you your homework assignments, and then just drink a little bit of juice. But forgive me, and this is also like running a marathon, so I have to have hydration, I need juice. Hold on a second. Miniman asks a wonderful question. Thank you for your participation here. He says, why is this pole shift happening? My answer is because it is a rectification, like a healing of dis-ease or unease, a healing of the unpleasant experiences that we have been going through, the symptoms that we have been going through because of our wobbly chakras that make us die. Wobbly chakras make you die. If you're going up the center, you do not die. If you're wobbling, you die. Jeffrey says, is that to say that we could potentially continue to human form infinitely? No. That's like saying, will I be a caterpillar infinitely? No. You will metamorphose into a new state. So this is level 2 stuff. I will tell you all about what happens when you get to the culmination point over here, what happens in your journey. That's for part 2 of the recording that we'll do today. Many Man says, if I am consciousness, I can't die. Even if I hit the membrane of death, only the body dies. Good question. When you hit the membrane of death, because you are traveling askew, or you're like, this is like this, but you're like this, or this is like this, but you're like this. If you are askew, your hair is out of place. What happens is you hit the membrane of death, and then you hand in your hard drives. And I'm going to talk all about this in level 2, actually. But your consciousness unravels, like the unraveling of a giant knitted sweater. And then you assemble, circulate back to the beginning, and you try this trajectory anew. So because that's really level 2 trajectory stuff, I'm going to press pause on that and give you more of a detailed answer in level 2. Pedro, got that? Elena says, could you please say the name of the guy again who explores the dimensions? Better than say it. Let me write it out for you, not with the crazy pen. Let's write it so that you can read it. And here, draw this right down here. Rob Bryanton and Exploring the 10 Dimensions. It is in the supplemental homework videos. You can also do a YouTube search. And I highly recommend. I think his work is lovely, and he's not a quantum physicist. He's a musician who expresses these things through beautiful, beautiful artistry. Okay, red. This is beautiful. He says, the closest thing to the flying room lasagna that I've seen is from The Little Prince, where a boy goes to many different planets and uses up his body to travel among the stars. I love The Little Prince. J'adore. Such a beautiful story, worth looking into. It's a children's, lighthearted type of fable, but I think written by a pretty tuned in human with some lovely drawings. Yeah, and there's some beautiful truth in there. It's an allegory. It's not literal. Worth looking into. Miniman says, 0 dimension exists only in theory or actually? Actually, it is part of the basis of the teaching, because you start to understand in future lessons that this is the 0th dimension. And this is the 0th dimension, and it's jumping back and forth between these 2 points. So Miniman, I'm going to keep on answering your questions, because I know, I'm not saying this right, the words are not coming out right. Miniman, I can tell the way your mind is working. You're like, wait a minute, the white point, wait a minute, this is the 0th dimension, wait a minute, the culmination point, like all of those things are the same thing. So you are rolling around in your mouth like, what's this thing I'm tasting? What is this thing? It's the singularity. So we are going to keep on talking about the singularity in this class and exploring it and continue to like give you nourishment. That's the nourishment that you're getting right now, I can tell. Judy says, so happy to finally join live today. I'm happy that you're here and getting your first pool time. Ah, that's great. I love it that people are outside in their pool while they are learning. It's summer school. It's good. Very good. Pedro says, this probably is related to another class. When the Pooties go to entropy, do they just jump to the origin, or is it like they ascended and jumped to the next level? Thank you, you're awesome. That's something I will answer in level 2, okay? Allison says, how can we identify if our chakras are off kilter? And what can we do about it? If you die, your chakras are off kilter. And what you have to do about it is learn how to get a steering wheel, get control of the steering wheel of your car and get your chakras in alignment like this. So this is literally what this class is all about. Awakening your higher faculties, becoming empowered in terms of perceiving your own time by, read the map. The answer is you read the map and you drive to where you want to go. But that's also like saying, hey, how do I play a symphony? You just move your fingers like this and then music comes out. Like, it ain't that easy. So that's why I continue to describe, like, this is only the 2nd lesson. I'll describe much, much more. And I have a lot to get to in lesson 2. That's why I'm moving fast right now. Ines says, that means the 5th dimension is the creative one where the manifest constantly. Can we jump then in time to the 6th and change the past? Yes. Claiming your anatomy in the 5th dimension and higher means that you gain additional degrees of freedom. This is how you really begin to rewrite time. This is how you really begin to become the auteur of your existence. 5th dimension is where we manifest. We are all quantum observers manifesting. The ovens in front of your eyes bake the bread of reality. That is something that's been going on for many millennia, but now it's a question of becoming conscious and doing it well and making good bread. So I have a video all about this that is called Reality Creation. And it's a fun story time telling of these ideas. And I will refer you to that video just because I got to get to level 2. I don't have time to tell that entire story right now. Julie says, shift from love, felt sense when 8, the dimension is described. Yeah, so it's different. It's a different experience of time. When you become a higher dimensional being, you see all the possibilities. And you also begin to see, like, imagine if you have tapestries with many different layers of time as tapestries on top of each other. And then you have a thread of an event that sews through many layers. When you become 5th, 6th, and higher dimensional, you begin to see all these threads that sew together many complementary layers of time. And this layer can be Neolithic times, and this layer can be today, and this layer can be 10,000 years in the future. And you begin to see an event that is coming through all these things through multiple lifetimes. So you get a greater understanding of the complexity, the synchronicities, and also the commonalities. Why did this happen? Oh, because if I trace back that thread all the way through all of these other layers of time and consciousness, it's because that's connected to that. So none of this justifies or excuses, you know, horrible things that might happen, but it gives you more of an understanding of the horrible things that happen, their origins, and then of course the rectification. Well, how do we fix the horrible crapola? This is how you get to fix the horrible crapola. Chloe, lovely to see you and thank you for being here. She says, is there a place directly outside of the membrane of death where you are unraveled specifically within the astral plane? The membrane of death is the astral plane. Membrane of death equals astral plane. Membrane of death equals astral plane. So like, let's say you take a bunch of ayahuasca. Where are you going? You're going to the astral plane, is the membrane of death. It is where people have gone who have died. And not all of them are good. And the lower astral is full of pimps and chuds and lowlifes and the very, very worst people that you would ever want to experience. They're all like, give me $5, give me $5. Those are not the best members of society. So I'm cautioning more and more people against doing any kind of ayahuasca psychedelic journeying, because I think it's literally like diving into a sewer, like diving into a pile of poop. So there's the membrane of death is supposed to be like this clear waterfall, but you're not supposed to have death. Well, let me get into that level 2. Level 2, I'll get into there. Oh, okay, Jeffrey, I'll answer your question in level 2. That'll be really perfect. Ines says, fractal time, the repetition of similar events in certain time periods. Yes, that is exactly what I mean. And the fractals go through many different layers, and the fractals can be ancient, like into a prehistory. They can be future, into a civilization that isn't even recorded yet. So, okay, that level 1, I think I got through everything. It's big, it's a lot to get through. And I got someone coming to fix the AC in a couple of hours. So I want to make sure that I complete everything on level 2 also. Let's talk homework. First of all, again, my appreciation for everyone who's participating on that level of doing their homework. I'm going to get to you today or tomorrow in order to review how you've done. So last week, what I said, your homework was all about, we'll clear this all out, basically creating a harmonic structure where we're starting off with the larger red circle. Oh my God, I have to do this with the right colors, otherwise you guys will all go crazy. Starting off the larger red structure and going all the way down to the violet structure, which is 1/7 the size of red. That means that you can fit 7 of these into 1 of these, all right? So everyone has already sent me their homeworks on that, and I'm not going to reiterate it, but what I want you to do for next week is to create 4 of these all at 90-degree angles. So let's clear it out. I want you to do, here's a central point. I want you to do 1, 2, right? We're building a torus. Oh my God, I have to do more building a torus with you guys next week because I didn't even get into everything about it. 3, 4. I know that this is a horribly drawn one for me. And if yours goes off the painting, it goes off the page, it's fine. If you can only fit this much on your page, that's fine, as long as you are able to get the central structures. So you were going to do what you did 2 or 1 week ago. I now want you to make 4 of them. And I want you to arrange them like this. 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, and 1 here. Again, this is a horrible, horrible drawing. Oh my God, let me show you something better. Sorry that my pen is so hard to work with over here. Let's show you this. You do not have to make your homework look exactly like this, but I want to give you an example of what you end up with. You start to draw flattened cross sections of 4 vortex sculptures. So you are going to do exactly what you did correctly 1 or 2 weeks ago, but you're going to do it times 4, and you're going to have it be arranged in this arrangement. and you will begin to see the ways that it overlaps in interesting ways. And then you can email me a snapshot of your painting, what you did, and you don't have to email me your measurements if you got them to me earlier already. Then and I can also tell by looking at them about whether they're the right proportions. So we're starting to learn how to draw the chakras. And then next week, I'm going to go more into how this shape is made. So we're going to review building the dimensions, go into how this is made, and I'm going to review everyone's homework, okay? I know the homework is complex, and everyone who's doing it, like, you are strong. I'm happy and I appreciate that you are doing it. Yeah, so okay, let me end level 1 recording for right now, and let me get on to level 2. Thank you so much.